Annyeonghaseyo, this is meowmurai. Let's continue our game of Despera Drops running on Nintendo Switch 2.
騙される覚悟はできているか？ぼさっとしてるとこれで問題ないか。
After we settle down in a room for 8 in the hostel, I officially introduce everyone to Crystal.
ということでいろいろあって一旦保護しました。かわいいねえ、このお洋服どこの？
いや、ということでじゃないだろう。ちゃんと説明しろ。
Excuse me. Sighing at Hamuel's retort, I told them about the text from Bishop that gave me a way into the castle in exchange for taking Crystal under my wing.
それで地下通路なんて知っていたのか。しかし、ビショップか。ミラノで脱出路を送ってきたところといい、妙な協力者だな。
もしかして僕たちと同じようにあの人たちから逃げていたりする人でしょうか？
もしくは連中の中に裏切り者がいて崩壊を望んでいるかだな。
そいつは分からんが、つまりそのビショップってやつにこいつを引き渡せばいいんだな。
と思ったんですが、
そいつは分からんが、つまりそのビショップってやつにこいつを引き渡せばいいんだな。
と思ったんですが、実はこんな連絡をもらって。
I showed everyone the text I just received. The only thing written was, protect Crystal to the end.
子連れで逃亡か？さすがに厳しくねえか？下手すりゃ誘拐犯に見える。
いや、すでになっているようだ。見ろ、誘拐事件の犯人として我々が報じられている。
Cube showed us his phone screen, which had an article with our photo. It wrote that we'd seized a young child for ransom money. There was no photos of Crystal, however. They must have had a reason for not revealing her to the public. The article only specified that she was a girl.
わお、サリーたち SNS ですっごい叩かれてる。殺人に強盗に誘拐までやった極悪犯だって。さすがにちょっと盛りすぎじゃない？
よく信じるもんだな、民衆も。
その書き込みもあいつらの自演じゃねえの？
にしても、さすがにニュースが出るのが早すぎないか？
いないと気づいてすぐに出したんだろう。事実確認すらしていないはずだ。
まあ実際誘拐してきたようなもんですけどね。よかったんですかね、連れてきちゃって。
Hearing Kamu's words, Crystal clung to me tightly, looking frightened.
随分とあんたに懐いてるな。どうやって手なずけた？
手なずけたなんて変な言い方しないでください。別に何もしてませんから。
But now that he mentioned it, Crystal had followed me all the way here without questioning it at all. It was probably because she wanted to escape the castle, but she had attendants there. Though she'd been under house arrest, they had treated her well. In that case, why had she been willing to follow me, who was a stranger to her?
まるで母親のそばを離れない子供のようだな。
まさか、あんたの子供ってことはさすがにないよな。
当たり前です。
でも戻りたくないってんなら別に一緒にいればいいんじゃね？だよな。
Hearing Ram's words, Crystal nodded vigorously. Her eyes were moist with unshed tears. Her expression made it clear that she never wanted to go back.
念のため確認をしておくが、あの城には決して戻りたくない。ということでいいのだな。
Gib asked her directly to make sure we interpreted her correctly. Once again, Crystal nodded profusely. I could feel her grip on me tightening.
大丈夫だよ、クリステル。絶対にあそこへ返したりしないから。
Crystal looked at me as if to ask, really? Her cherubic gaze spurred on my protective instincts.
本当だよ。 安心して。
At last, Crystal sighed in relief. It appeared that she greatly disliked that place. I wondered why, but we weren't close enough yet for me to pry.
それより喋んないの？おじさんたちが怖いから？
Ram dropped to his knees to look into Crystal's face. She cast down her eyes with a hint of melancholy.
もしかして声が出せないのか？
With a troubled face, Crystal opened her mouth, but even then she didn't say anything. Eventually she nodded quietly.
そうか。生まれつきか。
Crystal shook her head softly. When I thought about it, I remembered that the crystal in my dreams had been able to talk. Then it's something she acquired.
心因性かもしれないな。
Gib muttered, and the mood immediately grew heavy. The girl had been saddled with the label Heiliger, and had been imprisoned. I couldn't imagine how stressful it had been for her.
もし喋れないのでしたら筆談とかどうでしょうか？
Camo retrieved the notepad and pen that were provided in the hostel room and offered them to Crystal.
試してみる価値ありますね。クリステル、文字を使ってお話できる？あなたのお名前書いてみてくれないかな？
Hearing my encouragement, Crystal stared at the pen Camus had handed her for a while, but then she cast down her eyes sorrowfully and left it on the table. Oh, how are we going to commit crimes with a child on board? Well, you know. Unfortunately, we aren't the only people with children, in our vicinity or under our supervision that commit crimes. So, you know, I imagine they'll find a way around it.
文字もダメか。子供に最低限の教育すら受けさせていないってことかよ。くそ。
Ash spat those words with agitation. Crystal shrank into herself fearfully, seeing his anger.
いや、悪い。お前に怒ったわけじゃないんだ。
やっぱ連れてかなきゃダメだよ。こんな子を閉じ込めとくなんて真っ当なやつじゃない。連れ戻させちゃダメだ。
そうだよ。ハミー君とアッシュ君の人手なし。
おい、人を勝手に人手なしにするな。反対はしてないだろう。俺も反対とは言ってない。
でも嫌そうな顔してるんだもん。今もクリステルを怯えさせたし。
あれはだから。まあいい。だが、子供とはどう接したらいいかわからないんだから仕方ねえだろう。
確かに僕もどうコミュニケーションを取ればいいか分かりませんが、まずは妹がたくさん出てくるジャパンコミックを買いに行くところから。
I'll stop at Camus.
いや、漫画の真似をしても意味ないだろう。
ところでビショップから期限などは聞いていないのか？
いえ、特には。
そうか。
何？ジブは反対だって言うの？
いや、保護は必須だと考えている。下手にどこかへ預けでもしたらすぐに連れ戻されるだろう。帰りたくないと怯える子供を放り出すほど無情にはなれん。
帰りたくないか。
Look at this crew. A peculiar determination set in everyone's faces. They seem to empathize with the sentiment.
それよりさ、連中のことについて調べようぜ。せっかく忍び込んでいろいろ取ってきたんだし。
Rami took out an envelope with a broken wax seal as well as a document that looked like a written note.
いつの間にこんなに。
負けっぱなしは嫌だったからさ。ってことで、あいつらが何者か調べてみようぜ。
After that, we all took turns to share everything we had each observed. There were bones in the underground passage. Crystal had been imprisoned in a lavish room. The agents all wore badges with strange emblems. Finally, the letter that Rami had stolen was signed off with the acronym CROWN, Crown.
クラウンなんだこりゃ。
クリステルはこれが何かわかる？
Crystal shook her head, looking stumped. It appeared that she didn't know much at all.
文脈から察するにこれが団体名のようだが、調べられるか？
はーい。ってあれ？特に引っかかんないな。
ま、特に珍しい名称でもないしな。
あ、ではあの城の所有者を調べてみるのはどうでしょう。そこの身元から判明するかも。
But the castle doesn't appear anywhere on maps or anything.
オッケー。
We don't even know the name of the castle.
ここのデータベースに潜り込んでと。
Sally pressed the enter key, but instead of information we'd been looking for, an error message took over her screen.
最高機密。
最高セキュリティレベルってなんで？こんな特殊なアクセスプログラム見たことないよ。
城の所有者を調べただけなんですよね。
そうだよ。いつもならこんなの一瞬で終わるのに。
Sally didn't give up the struggle and put in every effort to access the data, but error messages just kept popping up to no avail.
相変わらず権力ってやつを見せつけてくれるじゃないか。
こういうとこほんと気に食わないな。
しかし最高機密として存在が秘匿されているなんて、なんだか秘密結社みたいですね。
まさに秘密結社そのものだよ。そのクラウンってやつはね。
Carlos, where'd you come from? I spun around with a start at the unexpected voice. At the door to our room stood Carlos.
いやあ、いいドミトリーじゃないか。ジュニアスクールでのキャンプを思い出すよ。
Yeah, all the crown folks have like special powers, so I'm actually surprised that you can hide from them without them knowing.
てめえなんでここに？どうやって入ってきやがった？
どうやってって、このドミトリーは扉に鍵がついてないじゃないか。犯罪者とはいえ不用心だよ、まったく。
勝手に入ってきたやつに言われたくないんだけど。てか何しに来たの？
おいおい、仲間じゃないか。そう警戒するなって。
Are we Nakama? I cannot doubt that.
こんな怪しい野郎と仲間になったつもりはないがな。
釣れないな。一緒に城まで行った仲じゃないか。
Though Crystal seemed somewhat uneasy after seeing Carlos, she wasn't especially frightened. That likely meant they weren't acquainted. She had an inquisitive stare, but she was wary as she hid behind me. Seeing her, Carlos smirked.
お、その子が誘拐してきたお嬢ちゃんか。写真撮っていいか？
Absolutely not.
誘拐じゃありません。助け出したんです。あと写真なんてダメです。
残念だな。
それよりどうやってここを見つけた？
そこの色男の上着のポケットにちょいと忍ばせてもらってな。見てみろ。
Raising an eyebrow, Hamil reached into his left breast pocket. He fished out something that looked like a small button battery.
こいつは
GPS 追跡用発信機だよ。はぐれた時のためにつけておいたんだ。でも高いから返してもらおうかと思って。
Oh, Carlos, now you're super loud. What the heck? Ash grabbed it and mercilessly crushed it underneath his foot. There were nothing but fragments left on the ground, and Carlos crumpled onto his knees.
おい、壊すなよ。安いもんじゃないんだぜ。
無断でつける方が悪い。その通りだな。
それよりまさか発信機を取り戻すためだけに来たわけではあるまい。クラウンについて知っている素振りだったな。何者だ？
まさかあいつらの仲間だとは言わないよね。
待ってくれよ。あんな連中と一緒にされちゃ困る。 秘密結社クラウン。こいつは俺が長年追ってるネタなのさ。
Oh my god, Carlos. Calm down. Why are you so
準備は
loud?
間違いなくですね。
カルロ
Carlos placed a scrapbook on the table. He opened it to reveal a whole collection of dubious photos pasted within. These scraps featured all kinds of topics: grotesque murders, drug incidents, missing people, and even occult rituals.
オカルトめいた組織から学術的な集団まで、この世には秘密結社と呼ばれる団体があまたある。クラウンはそれらの総本山みたいなもんだ。厄介すぎるぐらいに力を持ったね。
秘密結社って、あんたはオカルト誌のライターだったのか？
オカルト絡みの秘密結社だったらよかったんだがな。政界にも会員が多い、れっきとした政治的な秘密結社だよ。
そんな秘密結社聞いたことありませんが。
Oh, well, Camus, they're a secret society.
そりゃそうさ。情報は巧妙に隠されている。メディアももみ消されるどころか、とっくに彼らの言いなりさ。いや、一員と言ってもいいか。
なるほど。あの報道といい、納得の説明だな。
追っていた事件の証人が川に浮いたり、証言を取り消して有罪が立証できなくなったり、そういう時、大抵こいつらの影があったよ。しかも厄介なのは、100年以上前からある非常に長い歴史を持つ秘密結社だってことだ。
Yeah, it seems like Crown is just basically like another organization. But instead of policing things, they want to control things.
100年以上前から。
ああ、ヨーロッパ全土に会員がいる大規模な組織だ。代表はモナークと呼ばれていて、その素性は組織の一部の人間しか知らないらしい。
え？チャンセラーが代表じゃねえの？
チャンセラーはただ執務を執り行う役目ってところだろうな。
Oh, well, that means Bishop is also part of them. I mean, his name kind of follows the naming convention of Crown.
チャンセラーの上にはモナークか。相変わらず仰々しい秘密結社だな。国でも作る気か？
そこはわからんが、モナークは本物の王家の血筋だなんて情報もある。まあ、こいつはさすがに眉唾者だろうがな。だが、会員の多くは爵位や称号、勲章持ちばかりだ。地位と家柄、血筋が確かな名家の連中が多いせいで、厄介な秘密結社なのは間違いないな。
爵位持ちですか。社交界にも会員が多そうですね。
ああ、デビュタントボールに参加するようなご令嬢の父親は大抵が会員だって話だぜ。
デビュタントボールですか？前に僕が出席した時にはそんなお誘いはありませんでしたが。
いや、出たことあるのかよ。お前、どれだけいいところのお坊ちゃんなんだ？
サリー知ってる。ニュースで見たことあるもん。毎回参加者のドレスすっごいんだよね。
Think Crown wants to start World War III? Well, yeah. Seems like it's one of those things that they could either start or prevent or somehow manipulate.
っていうか、それが本当だとしたら、かなり厄介な団体じゃないか。爵位や称号、勲章持ちだって。冗談だろ。
だが上司の情報を最高機密にしたり報道をねじ曲げたりできる相手だ。納得はできるな。
Faced with this outlandish revelation, an oppressive silence fell over us. No one could laugh it off. We knew just how possible it was. Back in Japan, some still cared about your family's background. My relatives on my father's side were prime examples. They brought up lineage all the time. But as someone raised in Japan, talk about noble descent, knighthood, and peerage sounded like a fairy tale. That didn't seem to be the case for others. Apparently there was still a high society in Europe. Perhaps such topics weren't so far removed from my life that I could dismiss them as fantasy.
しかしそんな多くの会員を抱えて秘密結社とやらは一体何をするつもりなんだろうな。
そいつがつかめないんだ。だが殺しまでして隠蔽工作に必死になる奴らだ。ろくなことじゃないだろう。
世界滅亡とかとんでもないことを言い出す団体じゃないことを祈るよ。
しかし、よくこんな団体を追って今まで無事でしたね。
そこはまあ、のらりくらりとな。ジャーナリストなんだ。こいつだけ追ってるわけじゃないし、むしろ他のくだらん記事の方が仕事のメインだ。
そういや、ミステリーサークルなんかの記事とか書いてたな。
そう。おかげでやっこさんたち、俺が本気で追ってるとは気づいてないはずだぜ。だが油断は禁物だ。さすがのレベッカ・ロッソも無傷とはいかなかったみたいだからな。
Carlos showed us his phone, and on its screen was Rebecca's suspended social media account. That's awful.
本人は無事か？
そいつはさっきカナーレゼロを見て確認済みだ。彼女自身がディレクターだし、あの番組にはそういうタイプのスポンサーがついてないからな。
Oh, so she's an independent journalist. It's weird that she's... Well, anyway.
だからまあ、昼間に画像が乱れた件とアカウントの凍結について謝罪はしてたよ。あとは普通に最近フランスであったデモの報道をしてたよ。つっても昼間あの現場にいたのにレベッカがそいつ関連の報道をしてないのは妙だけどな。
Oh, did they get to her?
さすがにお偉方の圧力がかかってビビったか？
もしくは今後の報道のために今はおとなしいふりをしているかだな。
しかし SNS アカウントの凍結ですか。言論の自由とは何なんですかね。
Oh, freedom of speech isn't actually universal. And what is considered free speech varies from country to country. I'm all surprised to see this kind of stated in such a matter-of-fact way. But yeah, the speech that is free is not free everywhere. And it's not the same speech everywhere either.
わざわざ言論の自由という言葉があるってことは、そもそも自由じゃないってことなのさ。
Oh, I'm actually on Hamiel's side for once. Huh?
かもな。そんなこんなで一人で追うには限界もあるし、おかげで俺も行き詰まっててね。
それで僕らを利用したってわけ。
利用だなんて言うなよ。悲しいね、疑われてばっかで。俺はあんたらみたいな仲間が欲しいと常々思っていたのにさ。
少なくとも仲間になりたければ勝手に発信機を取り付けるような真似は要すんだな。
言わずに回収すりゃよかったよ。
僕らの前でできると思ってんの？
まあ、ここに来た時点でそりゃ無理だったろうな。
With a wry smile, Carlos picked up the fragments of the tracker and stuffed them into his pocket.
でもな、こう見えて俺はオタクらに感謝してるんだ。連中を引っかき回して俺に調査する時間をくれたからな。だから誠意を持って挨拶しに来たんだよ。
誠意を持ってるなら先に連絡してよ。
確かにそうだな。
それで我々が引きつけている間にお前は一体どんな情報をつかめた？
そうだよ、それぐらい教えてよ。サリーたち大変だったんだから。
Yeah, I mean, they almost got done in. If it hadn't been for Miku and Bishop, then they all would have They all would have died.
OK。言われずともそうするつもりだったさ。
Oh, I guess really because of Bishop. Carlos swiped on his phone and showed us a photo in his camera roll. It was some kind of document.
盗み出したらバレちまうからな。写真を撮ってきたんだ。こいつが今クラウン内で最優先とされている司令部だ。ほら、モナークの印があるだろ。最重要って証拠だ。
なんだこれは。数字にラテン語？妙な文章だな。
暗号か。
その通り。で、ちょっとしたつてで暗号の解読をしてもらったら、こんな文章が書かれていたよ。
The text on the letter was as follows. Acolyte shall serve Heiliger and discern the miracles of prophecy hidden within her locked memory.
いやー、長年クラウンを追っているんだけど、アコライトやハイリガーなんて言葉は今まで聞いたことがなくてね。もしかしたら何か新しい計画のコードネームなのかもしれないが、ジョーちゃんは何か知らないかい？
Oh, I wouldn't reveal anything to Carlos.
長年追いかけてるあんたが知らないことを俺らが知ってるわけないだろ。
Hamiel's casual denial and ended that topic at that. Hamiel's a quick thinker on that one. You know he would have screwed it up if he asked us directly. Once Carlos left, we looked at the photo we received once again and discussed it.
カルロスが何者かわからない以上、彼女たちの正体を伏せたのは正解だったな。
当たり前だ。あんな怪しい野郎にわざわざ教える必要ない。
でも一体どういう意味なんだろう。アコライトをハイリガーに仕えさせ、閉ざされた記憶の中にある神託の奇跡を示せって。
つまりハイリガーの神託が喋れなくなったことで聞けなくなったから、ミカの力で無理やり聞こうとしたという感じですかね。
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
となるとこれが奴らがこいつを狙う理由か。確かに替えが利かないわけだな。どんな医者も詐欺師も喋れない相手から情報を得るのは難しい。
Everyone's gaze fell on Crystal and me. Crystal had lost her voice, while I had the power to read memories and emotions. But the question still remains. How did that organization learn of my power? Not even my father knows. The only person who should have known was my dead mother. Though people shunned me when I was a child because of it, I'd never confided in anyone about it. And the late Mr. Hartfield knew of it as well. Had he been affiliated with Crown?
肝心の神託とやらだが、それは一体何なんだろうな。
Yeah, I know. This started off as an innocent vacation. It's gone far beyond that.
だったら見てみりゃいいんじゃないか。まず情報を入手すりゃ、奴らに対抗する手段もわかるかもしれないし。
ですが、彼女が閉ざし、見せたくないものを無理に読み取っていいんでしょうかね。
僕だったら嫌だよ。見せたくないもん勝手に見られるのはさ。
That was true for everyone in the world. After all, very few could hide their true emotions like Hamiel.
私もできればしたくありません。それではクラウンのしようとしてたことと変わりないですし。
実際本人が喋りたくないことも読み取れるのか。
はい。と言っても意図して任意の記憶を見られるわけではないですが、その人が強く思い描いている感情や記憶しか私には見えません。
I know, she's basically like Deanna Troi from Star Trek Next Generation, with a little bit more power. Then again, Deanna Troi was kind of useless.
なるほど。制限もあるというわけか。
I'm sure some Star Trek fans are going to come at me for that remark. Hearing that, several people looked relieved. They must have been thinking of memories they didn't want me to peer at. Once again, I was hit with the reminder of the unease my power caused people, even my comrades. I'd confessed voluntarily, and they accepted me as I was. If it was going to give them unneeded anxiety, however, perhaps wearing gloves again would be ideal.
強く思い描いている記憶か。逆にそいつを想起させるような質問を投げかけりゃできちまうってわけか。と言ってもどう質問すりゃいいのかすら俺らにはわからないけどな。情報を得るにしても打ち解けるのが必須か。
しかし一体どんな記憶を心の内に閉ざしているんだろうな。
喋れなくなった原因と関係しているんじゃないのか。
A heavy silence fell upon us again. I could feel our unanimous agreement. We didn't want to force Crystal into anything she was uncomfortable with.
今日はとりあえずもう寝ませんか。彼女も疲れているでしょうし。
Yeah, seriously, it must be late. Crystal looked overtly relieved at Kamo's proposal. The tension in the air relaxed. Though Rami and Sally fought over which bed they would sleep in, we managed to retire for the night peacefully. Svitsvin, Lugano, July 28th, 2028, 8:02, Friday, hostel. The next morning, thanks to Gib purchasing groceries for us, I had the chance to cook for the first time in a long time. Once breakfast was ready, I carried plates of food over to the table 2 by 2.
はい、どうぞ。やったー、お姉ちゃんのご飯だ。いっただきます。
With big smiles, everyone helped themselves to soup and stuffed their cheeks with baguette sandwiches.
やっぱこれだよな。ミカのご飯が一番だよ。
ああ。
Oh, Ash is like in super agreement. That's weird.
はい。なんだかようやく帰ってきたという気持ちになりますね。
そうだな。
ねえ、お姉ちゃんがいないときゼリー飲料だったんだもん。味気なかったよ。
ま、慌ただしかったしな。
We chatted as we ate, but soon I noticed Crystal hadn't touched her food. She only stared down at her baguette sandwich as if it were a mysterious artifact.
クリステル、どうしたの？
もしかして食べ方わかんない？こうやってかぶりつくんだよ。
Rama opened his mouth wide and sank his teeth into the bread. Crystal stared at him in amazement. She opened her mouth as wide as she could and bit into the baguette. She chewed like a hamster before she opened her eyes in amazement. Oh, has she never seen a sandwich before? I'm pretty sure sandwiches are all over Europe. Well, I won't say the origin of the sandwich is from Europe. I think that's a bit under debate. She had to have run into a sandwich at some point in time.
おいしい？
And a baguette sandwich? That's actually very common all across Europe. I mean, that's French influence for you, right? Nodding repeatedly, Crystal worked through her sandwich. Huh, I guess the folks at Crown don't believe in sandwiches. She was so absorbed in her food, she must have been famished. I couldn't suppress a smile.
いい食いっぷり。
あんな城で暮らしてたお姫様だからな。バゲットサンドは食べ慣れてないってわけか。
I mean, really, if it wasn't for rice or noodles, I mean, sandwiches would kind of be in my top meal. But sandwiches are number 3. For me personally.
クラウンか。
The word castle reminded us of the organization, and everyone's faces fell.
あいつら追ってくるだろうか。
追いかけてくるか泳がせるか、どちらにしてもこのまま見逃すということはありえないでしょう。
そうだな。昨晩の話を踏まえると、少なくともヨーロッパ全土に構成員がいるという話だ。 厄介だな。
なら一旦アメリカにでも飛んどくか。と言っても空港じゃ捕まるだろうから船を乗り継ぐ羽目になるけどな。
船やだ。
私もできれば大幅な移動は避けたいな。まだやるべきことがある。
僕もです。自分の身の安全を優先するよりやるべきことがありますから。
See, they did at least talk about America.
派手に動けば目立つ。下手に移動はしない方がいいだろう。ま、確かにそうか。密出国は金もかかるしな。
Smuggle ourselves out. Just like I suspected, there was a big difference between running from place to place within Europe and moving across continents.
金といえば、そろそろ資金が乏しいな。
ああ、確かに逃げ続けるにはちょいと不安が残る残高だな。資金調達をした方がいいか。
Well, unless one of the folks in Crown or Bishop know how to teleport people, which at this point in time I wouldn't be surprised.
そういえば最近生産できてなかったですよね。皆さんレシートをください。
After finishing our meal, I input the data of the receipts I received into my accounting app. When I looked over the bizarre list of items on the receipts, I tilted my head quizzically.
カミュさん、これは何ですか？
ああ、爆弾を作るための材料です。
Uh,
サリー、こっちの飲食店のレシートは随分高いけど。なんかむしゃくしゃしてやけ食いしちゃった。一人で？
おい、そいつは個別会計にしとけ。
でもサリー、もうすっからかんだよ。
僕もです。
てか僕、神にお金貸してるんだけど。
Camel he probably bought some comic books.
俺もだ。
いやー、大量に買うと意外と高くつきますよね、硝酸アンモニウム。
By the time we finished squaring the accounts, my wallet had become feather light. Our daily living savings were almost completely depleted.
そういや、この町にはカジノがあったな。
じゃあ今日はカジノ行く？人の多いあたりで吸ってきてもいいんだけどさ、やっぱダメなわけ
Oh, I can't really get mad at Sally either. I might be guilty once or twice of binge eating, maybe a couple times a week.
もちろんだよ。
Not because I'm depressed, just because I'm hungry all the time.
それよりみんな服が破けてるじゃん。糸があればサリーが直してあげるよ。
そういえばガソリンもつきそうだったな。
Yeah, I mean, we've been going everywhere. I mean, I can't imagine us having that much money, yeah.
タイヤもすり減ってる。バイクと車の調整も必要だ。
いざって時のために発煙筒も持っておきたいですよね。
I wonder if we're going to have like another casino caper. I guess we'll see.
では今日は手分けをして支度を整えるとしよう。ミカ、君はクリステルと留守番をしていてくれ。
わかりました。
なんだ？
もしよければ手袋を買ってきていただけませんか？
手袋だ？おいおい、そいつはつけなくていいって言っただろ。
ですが、やっぱりつけてた方が私も皆さんも安心できると思って。別にサリーは気にしないよ。
そうですね、僕もです。
ですが、
この暑いのに手袋とか鬱陶しいだろ。
そうだな。私も気にはしていない。君が気にするなら別だが。
でも塀を登る時も滑って危なそうだしさ、僕もつけない方がいいと思うよ。
I don't know. Gloves can actually help you climb, but I guess that's a very specific kind of glove.
ま、そういうことだ。見られて困るものなんかないし、お前は気にするな。
ああ。では私たちは出かけてくる。二人は休んでいてくれ。ああ、そういえば、みんなも目立つような行動は控えるようにな。
言われなくても分かってるよ。
Yeah, there is no privacy. I guess Sally would have a hard time, like, repairing clothing. Unless it was fairly minor. Yeah.
はい、僕もおとなしくしますよ。いつも通り。
Well, you know, the plot in this game isn't like 100% foolproof.
それが不安なんだが。
They're definitely not into the finer details. But, you know, that's not the kind of visual novel this is. Everyone bantered boisterously as they filed out of the room. When it was only the two of us left, it suddenly became quiet. Hamio said that there's nothing they care about me seeing, but that's impossible. When we brought up the idea of me peering into Crystal's heart, each person showed some relief that my power had limitations. Despite that, my comrades were willing to say that it wasn't a big deal. Their kindness warmed my heart. Crystal came over and sat down next to me on the bed. Hesitantly, she gripped a handful of my skirt. There was a lost look on her profile. She was clutching my clothes because she didn't know what else she should do. Suddenly being whisked off to the outside world and away from everything she'd ever known must have been indescribably stressful, but she couldn't even cry. I didn't know what I should do from now on either, but I was sure that she must have been a lot more scared and anxious than I was. Well, yeah, obviously. There were so many things I wanted to ask her, but I didn't want to overwhelm her right now. If I could, I just wanted to help her calm down and find peace. I wanted her to focus on the positives of having escaped her prison. To soothe a child, I should... The door slammed open, interrupting my thoughts. Crystal jolted and gasped. The person who entered was a staff member of the hostel. Oh, okay. I was worried there for a minute.
あれ、まだいたのかい。今日は空調の点検があるから昼間は出ててくれと昨日言っといたはずなんだけどね。
すみません。ですが。
あら、どいた。1時間ぐらいで済むから街の観光でもしといで。
Not giving me time to respond, the man chased us out of the hostel room. Switzerland, Lugano, July 28th, 2028. 10:02 Friday, Piazza della Riforma. Sure I'm not pronouncing that right. Befitting a tourist destination, Lugano was swarming with people. The streets were alive with tourists strolling and shop staff calling out to customers. Where would be the best place to go? Was it better to blend in with the crowd, or was it better to sneak to a more deserted place? Oh, she's going to be happy here, huh? Crystal was spellbound by the scenery, parting her lips slightly in awe. The white walls of the building shimmered under the bright midday sun. Crystal couldn't take her eyes off the cityscape of Lugano. It was the first chance she had to take everything in at her own pace. She began wandering off aimlessly, and I hurriedly gave chase.
待って、クリステル。はぐれると大変だから手を。
Oh, we can't hold hands, huh? Seeing my offered hand for a split second, Crystal looked troubled. Even if I didn't touch her, I could tell she didn't want me to see.
ごめんね。手をつながなくてもいいから、私のスカートを掴んでてもらえる？
Shyly, Crystal clutched the fabric of my skirt. Heiliger had locked her heart away from the world. Whatever she was hiding there. Whatever was she hiding there, I wondered. Until the day she was willing to tell me herself, I refused to disrespect her by looking without her consent. I turned my gaze to the Lugano streets. Now then, where shall we go?
現状を記録するぞ。
これでいいか。
Okay, we got somewhere quiet, the casino. Well, not the casino, where we're the kid. Stay in the plaza, somewhere crowded, one of the shops, wander around. Are we going to run into one of the crew based on one of these? We'd have to pick one that we thought Rami would go to. So somewhere crowded, I think. Rami would want to find like a lot of people to pickpocket. Staying in a crowded place for as long as possible should be our best option, I think. Fortunately, the plaza was jam-packed with tourists. No one paid any attention to us as we leaned against the building's wall in one corner. Crystal stood next to me and absent-mindedly watched the flow of people. I looked where Crystal was facing and spotted familiar green hair. Hey, look at that. I actually didn't know, so, I said I'm not looking at a walkthrough. Not for the first playthrough, which means we're going to get a bummer ending for our first play. I apologize for anybody who's watching and is going to use this as a guide. Don't use this as a guide, please. He was weaving through the crowd, reaching his hand towards the back pocket of a tourist. Oh, of course, Rami. Hearing my voice, Rami was so startled that he jumped. He sprinted over to me before pressing a finger against his lips.
いいとこだったのに声かけないでよ。失敗しちゃったじゃん。
失敗していいの？スリをしようとしてたんでしょ。
Yeah, I don't know if we have enough points to get the happy ending of his ending. I guess there might still be an opportunity for that. I don't know. I think we missed maybe one or two opportunities. I don't know how strict the game is about how many points you need to get his happy ending. So I guess we'll find out the hard way.
だって資金がつきそうだったじゃん。
でもハミエルさんがカジノへ行くって言ってくれてたのに。
As she listened to our exchange, Crystal's eyes grew wide. Even someone like Rami must have felt awkward in this position. He forced a grin when he noticed her.
まあ、しないに越したことはないと思うけどさ。
He waved his hand as if trying to dodge the topic. Then he peered into Crystal's face.
それよか、クリステルはさ、こういうとこが珍しいんじゃない？
Crystal bobbed her head up and down.
だよな。ごめんな、部屋に置いてって。せっかくあそこから逃げてきたのにな。
Ram grinned and spun on his heel.
じゃあ、ついといでよ。僕、さっきいい景色のとこ見つけたんだ。
Yeah, it seems like Rami's going to be the most compatible with Crystal, just because he's so carefree. Yeah. If I would have picked somebody else, then they were all it's stiffer adults. So, well, maybe Sally would be okay, but who knows? Switzerland, Nagano, July 28th, 2028, 10:14 Friday, outside Cathedral. Following Rami, we climbed up a flight of stairs and eventually ended up at a place with a panoramic view of the city and the lake. The breeze that caressed my cheeks was so pleasant that I smiled without realizing it. Crystal and I stood side by side, leaning over the railing as we admired the breathtaking scene. She moved her lips, which traced the shape of silent words. I didn't know what she had said, but I could sense from her gaze that she was incredibly moved at how vast this world was. I imagine she said something like, "I never knew the outside was so big." She was spellbound by the difference from the castle's courtyard. Everything was so obviously new to her. That castle must have been her entire world for her entire life. She'd never known what lay beyond that small place. Crystal was so young. I couldn't fathom what kind of harsh environment she was brought up in. Her loathing for that place had been so strong, she was willing, excited to follow me, a stranger she met only once. I hope she'd enjoy these moments.
世界は広いだろ。
Rami must have been thinking the same thing, because he grinned at Crystal.
でもこんなもんじゃないよ。他にも楽しい場所や綺麗な場所がいっぱいあるんだ。だから楽しみにしててよ。僕らが見せてあげるから。
Crystal looked at Ram and me before smiling like a shyly blooming flower. It was the first time I'd seen such a bright smile on her. After that, the three of us wandered around the streets of Lugano so that Crystal could feel and see the vast, beautiful world in person. Crystal admired the cityscape with curiosity dancing in her eyes, as if everything was unusual to her. Well, I mean, it would be unusual to her. She walked from place to place and would stop to look at flowers. Relieved at how relaxed she'd become, Rami and I shared a look and a grin. After exploring Lugano and with Crystal for a while, we decided to rest on a bench. The cool breeze of the lake was pleasant against my skin, sweaty from the summer sun.
結局遊んだだけで終わっちゃった。稼がなきゃいけなかったのにな。
でもスリはダメだよ。ハミエルさんがきっとカジノで稼いでくれてると思うし。
そりゃあハミエルのイカ様の腕はいいけどさ。でもこれから何があるかわかんないし、資金調達しとくに越したことはないだろ。
That's true. Oh, this one's, interesting choices here.
これでいいのか？
これで問題
Oh,
ない
maybe
か。
I should
これ
leave
でいい
that.
か
I don't know.
な。
But you shouldn't steal. Crystal is watching. How about a street performance? Oh, well, we can't do that. That's all we need is for people to pay attention to us. I will say Crystal's watching.
ほら、クリステルが見てるよ。
I wasn't saying that stealing was fine if Crystal wasn't around, but I wanted to avoid exposing her to too much immoral activity.
まあ教育上良くないってのはわかるけどさ。
でしょ？ラミー君はお兄ちゃんなんだから、クリステルのお手本になってほしいな。
いや、別にクリステルのお兄ちゃんになったつもりはないんだけどさ。
The word Big Brother must have attracted her interest because Crystal turned to stare at Rami, her innocent eyes shining with anticipation.
すっげえキラキラした目で僕のことを見てるんだけど。参ったな。スリがダメならさ、こういうのはどう？
Rami raised the hood of his jacket and concealed his face before he hopped onto his feet from the bench. He removed his waste bag and placed it on the ground. Then he clapped his hands and began attracting the attention of the passers-by. Oh, this is such a bad idea. This is why I didn't pick this. This would make no sense for them to attract a crowd. However, that being said, this will probably give us points for him, I would guess. So
これで問題ありませんか？
let's take the points. How about a street performance?
それだったら大道芸とかどうかな。ラミー君って身軽だし、そういうのに向いてそうだけど。
大道芸か。そういえば最近はあんまりやってなかったな。
前はやってたの？
まあもっと大きな観光地だったら人通りも多いからスリより割がいい時もあるけど、あんまり儲からないんだよね。
Apparently earning tips with street performances wasn't as efficient as being a pickpocket.
でもクリステルも見たいよね。ラミー君のかっこいい大道芸。
When I called out to her, Crystal nodded eagerly. Okay.
姉ちゃんも見たい？
見てみたいな。
There we go.
ったく、そ な顔されたら反論できないじゃん。オーケー、わかったよ。それじゃちゃんと見ててくれよ。
とりあえず記録しておけ。
これでいいかな。
Okay, well, why don't we stop it there? This is meowmurai. You've been
これで
watching
OK？
Despera Drops
もう
running on
後ほど
Nintendo Switch
合流し
2.
ましょう。
So yeah, I've been uploading these this particular playthrough on TikTok. So thankfully, there's some people out there enjoying it on that platform as well. If you're wondering why I'm not able to do that live, you need like 10,000 followers to do anything live on TikTok. So you know, unfortunately, TikTok will just have to be behind a live broadcast. That's just the way things are. But you know, I'll make sure to get them up there so that folks there can enjoy it as well. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching. I will see you at the next stream.